What a wonderful day to go out and play. Hey, maybe you could come along. All you need to bring is a song to sing, a happy little baby song. All you need to bring is a song to sing, a happy little baby song. The link will be down below. See if it brings back memories. I left my towel on the chair and it rained. Be right back. I have my backup towel. Everybody needs a backup, right? Gotta have a backup. Already there's an ant, stinging ant. That crazy? And that little stinker hid up underneath there. This cat heard my voice when I was singing. Came running out from the pole barn. See if I can find that ant before I take this camera back in. Good morning, Sunday morning. The 11th? I think it's the 11th of June. It's not even summer yet. Summer begins, I think, the 21st, somewhere, something like that. But we are in hurricane season. It rained last night. Talking low because everything sounds so quiet today. I don't even hear the roosters crowing over there, or the chickens. I think the chickens took the morning off laying eggs on a Sunday. Maybe they do because it's the resurrection day, right? How's everybody doing? Grandpa here. Check the link out below, down below. Hap Palmer has uploaded pretty much all those songs. And I was looking for a DVD online a while back, because I do have one of the tapes. And Jenny used to play the you know what out of it. She was a baby. So this was BS before Stephanie. Definitely BA before Angel. What you doing? You got goo in your eye. It was dirt. It was dirt. Thought it might have been a flea. Huh? How are you doing? How are you doing, baby? I heard thunder and lightning last night, and it was raining. It woke me up. It was probably around 8, 9 o'clock, something like that. Best that I can remember, but I do know the lightning woke me up. Did you hear that lightning last night? I think your butt stinks or something. It's not a cloud, really not a cloud in the sky. Clear, a little bit hazy, not crystal blue, but looks like there's some haze. Maybe left over from the heat on the ground. Definitely has cooled things off. It woke up the mosquitoes, I can tell you that. It is quiet. Not even a lot of birds chirping. In the news today, maybe it was yesterday, I was watching a report that said Russia is more than likely going to start targeting Ukraine's supply chain. And what they're threatening is that if a port supplies armament to Ukraine in another country, that port can be a legitimate military target. Basically what they're saying is that the ports in Great Britain where those armaments are being shipped out of Russia's threatening to attack those if they don't stop delivering arms. Why that's important is during World War II, Germany received literally almost 100% of its logistics from inside their own country. They had to supply themselves with what they could make in country. Russia is now faced with that same situation. And due to the sanctions, it's getting harder and harder for them. Or at least it's difficult to resupply and keep their economy going. So America bombed, the Allies bombed inside of Germany. A lot of civilians died because they targeted their logistics. And that was okay. They bombed cities, ball bearing plants, manufacturing plants in civilian cities. They bombed. And that was okay militarily because it was supplying Germany with war product. So you have to understand where Russia's coming from and how that's going to open up a whole nother phase of this world war that we haven't quite named yet. Germany knew that because the Allies, Great Britain especially, was receiving supplies from the United States, that the U.S. was too far away. So that's why their U-boats patrolled the Atlantic and tried to disrupt shipping and cargo. And that was their primary duty, was to not let this wartime cargo get to Great Britain and to Europe. But they just couldn't stop all of it. They did sink a lot of ships, but they couldn't stop all of it. So the Germans knew that their logistics was starting to dry up. But because the other allies, France and Great Britain, were getting supplies from the United States, and as far away as Australia. Australia was shipping stuff, that they couldn't counter that and ultimately would lose, which they did. The same scenario is beginning to play out in the war in Ukraine. All these NATO countries providing arms. Of course, Russia's getting arms from China, North Korea, Iran, and I believe one other country. So they are receiving goods. And I believe the Ukrainians are starting to target those areas where those goods are coming in, which is why you see attacks now occurring near the borders of Russia. But things are escalating. And we say, sometimes things tend to repeat themselves, and isn't it so ironic that we can draw similarities to logistics, supply, and wartime demand for military equipment, and how Russia's threatening Great Britain. If that happens, what's going to happen? An attack on one NATO country is an attack on all, and we all have to respond. And I'm sure that their management in Russia is going through the scenarios that if they do that, what's going to happen. They're hoping that will cave. One thing that won't cave is the United States, because there's just something about the United States and the people here. We wonder about why everybody's so angry here all the time. Even though there's a lot of LGBTQ stuff, a lot of overweight, obesity, and things like that, still there's an awful lot of Americans that are just angry all the time. That's why we have so many mass shootings and road rage and stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to open up a whole new ball game, and you don't want to tick off the United States, because there's a bunch of angry people here. A bunch of them are in the military too, so. But NATO will have to respond, and maybe prayers are needed. I pray every day when I say the rosary that somehow God would bring a change to Russia so that the aggression there can stop toward Ukraine and other countries. We'll have to wait and see. That was in the news. And it's kind of on a dark note for a Sunday, but we can't be surprised when that happens because they already mentioned it. Of course, we have these think tanks in this country, the Rand Corporation, Washington. There's these different government-sponsored groups where they think of what could happen. This happens or that happens. You know, what's the probability of this happening? And then what will be the response? They do that about nuclear war. They study it. They say, what happens if this happens? How should we respond? So Russia, I'm sure, is doing the same thing. And more than likely, it won't come out good for them with so many other countries set against Russia. That's about all I should say about that at 10 minutes in. Sandy, you doing all right? I watched some of the Hat Palmer videos, and I started to watch them just a little while ago, and they just about made me cry because I remember dropping Jenny and Stephanie off at daycare, and Jenny and Stephanie crying. You know, when we would drop you off, it was so heartbreaking. And it's just something to think about when you have kids. You got a flea on your face. You know, it was heartbreaking to drop you off at the daycare, Carpenter's home. Miss Ernie, may she rest in peace, the old lady that would take care of you, was there most of the time. And Lakeisha was the black lady. She ended up at the Lutheran Church daycare near Florida Southern, and I met her after that place was torn down. She went to work at the daycare at the Lutheran school, where the apartments are now, the Star Apartments, that church right there. She was working there. And I remember that she had sickle cell or lupus or something real bad. She was sick quite often. But I knew she was a good lady. So despite all the checks and things you do to make sure your kids go into a good school or daycare, it's still hard to drop them off. But the Hat Palmer songs bring that back. You know, a lot of the fun and the joy of the first child, which Jenny was. I still got that tape somewhere. The first baby songs tape. And a lot of those we got from Aunt Teresa. You know, a lot of your clothes and books and things like that. I think she had her last child about the time Jenny was born, so her kids were like 4 or 5 years older than you guys. So we did inherit a lot of baby stuff and good stuff too, good things. Yeah, especially that high chair. I don't know if you remember that high chair. It was a Pergo. It's very expensive but very versatile. So when you would pull it up, it would kind of like pull away. And when you let it down, it was at an angle. It would go down at an angle. And you could adjust it in just about any position, up and down. I think it was on rollers too. It was very expensive. Pergo high chair. So I'm going to let you off early today for ranting for so long. I'm going to do some. In the bedroom yesterday I was working on Stephanie's old computer, which now of course has the Ryzen 5 5600 in it, which is I think compatible to an i5 12400, something like that. So it's plenty powerful enough, 6-core 12 thread. Got 32 gigs of RAM that came out of my old computer that crashed. 3200 RAM, DDR4. Got enough processor and RAM. So I downloaded OBS Studio, which is software for like showing games, you're recording your games on. Normally you'd need 2 monitors, so I may end up doing it in my living room because my TV is set up to my main computer as a second monitor. Once you're recording your screen, you can't have the software open because it'll be on the screen that you're recording. So you have to minus your software down, which means you can't really see what you're recording. You'll know that your screen's being recorded, but you won't be able to see what exactly it is, because I found an old 720p Logitech webcam, and believe it or not, it's got to be 20 years old. 20 years old, 2011, 2012. So I used it when we lived in the apartments. That's when I set it up in the window, and I started getting involved in iSpy, which is free software. Recording snapshots of movement outside of your window, and then all I would have to do is check the software, check the picture files to see what caused the camera to record. And if it looked interesting, I would go to the video files and review the entire video. But it's still available, I believe. It's called iSpy, I-S-P-Y, and it's open source, just like OBS. OBS is open source software. It's free. Gotta love free. And you can put your face down in one corner or up in one corner. Have a split screen. You can do just so many things. So I was thinking of maybe just showing you how I edit these videos in Magic software. And you would see me one day, in a little webcam mode or something. But just things kicking around. OBS it's called. It's a bunch of tutorials on YouTube, and it's free. You gotta love free. I think I mentioned yesterday I'm getting ready to get a bill from Watson Clinic for $2,000. So I'm going to need to be a little thrifty here in the next couple of months. I won't be able to afford the surgery because the surgery is going to cost, if I pay the $2,090, I'll still owe $7,000 of whatever the surgery would be. That would be my maximum out of pocket before the insurance pays 100%. My previous insurance, it was $3,800, but this is ACA, and the maximum out of pocket is $9,800. So free is good. The OBS software, I found an old webcam. I ordered a 1080p webcam. I think it's called Nexigo. It was $31 on Amazon. It's like 31,000 people have purchased it. It's the one Amazon recommends. So I'm going to give that a shot. It'll be here Monday. 1080p webcam. The only drawback to the software into these webcams is if you use the software, it only records in 30 frames per second, which is probably the minimum you would ever want to record at in high definition. But it's still fine. I mean, there'll be no jittering or cuts or anything like that. So in the next couple of weeks, I might upload a video from inside with the screen, and I'll show you some of the YouTube videos, maybe my screen with all my programs in it. Flies are out. Got to get a fly trap. Just got to do it right after the Friday, because it takes a few days for the pungent odor of the rotten eggs to draw the flies into it. And then it takes about 4 days to fill up with flies. If I did it on like a Wednesday, it would have to hang up there until the next week, which is just too long. It would be like full to the top with flies. So I have to set it out on like a Friday, the day garbage goes out. And then it's really a pain to get those down because they stink so dang bad, and they're full of flies, and there's still flies all over it when you take it down. Of course, there are fly vomits everywhere. So you got to have gloves and a mask on, and it's just so dirty, flies are. If you ever see them in a restaurant, run away. Because when they land on you, they they immediately vomit or excrete some sort of liquid out of their mouth. And if they've been sitting on something undesirable, that ends up on you or on your food or what have you. Just totally gross. You wonder why I hate flies so much? They're just so nasty. If they land on my food, if I was in a restaurant, I would probably take a whole section of the food and move it to the side, and then maybe complain at the end. But the flies are out here like crazy today. That's why you see me doing this. I love you guys. Almighty God, thank you for this Sunday, for this beautiful, wonderful weather, for knocking down the pollen and the dust and the dirt in the yard. Thank you very much for that. Grass will grow along with the flowers. Help us all to do better in being kind and generous and patient with others. And may we be reasonably happy in this world and supremely happy in the next. Amen. It is really quiet out here for a Sunday. I haven't heard roosters or chickens yet. Normally there's birds like right over chirping and stuff. They must be sleeping in because it's Sunday. Kind of like us, right? But you'll probably see this later this afternoon, or maybe Monday. But there's not much to look at, so if you want to just put it on like Jim Howard's, I'll put his on, and a lot of times I'll just listen to him because it's just him sitting in his apartment, talking about the things he did, or that he moved one computer or did this or did that. But we'll be in touch with you about the OBS thing. Always good to see you. Makes me happy to get out and do this, especially knowing it's free. I will see you on Monday. Get your rest. Take care of yourselves. And God bless you. Look at this thing here. Oops, she woke up. She heard something. Did she? Uh-oh. Somebody's dog just got hurt. That's what's got Sandy riled up. She heard that dog screaming. Isn't that terrible? There was a dog screaming, screeching like it was hurt. Like dogs do. Look at Sandy. She's worried, she's concerned. She knows that somehow these animals know that that's an animal in distress. How do they know that? That the dog was hurting. And somehow she was concerned. No, it really has nothing to do with her.